What if the bravest choice you ever make is to walk away? Not from love, but from what dims your light. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a bustling city square, the air thick with the hum of voices, the clatter of footsteps, and the faint scent of rain on cobblestones. Amid the crowd, you feel a quiet tug, a whisper from within that says, "This isn't where you're meant to be." That moment, that fleeting pause, is where transformation begins. It's the spark of courage that invites you to distance yourself from people, places, or patterns that no longer serve your soul. Dr. Elias Moreau, a 54-year-old psychologist whose warm hazel eyes seem to hold a lifetime of stories, once taught that in the act of stepping away, we uncover the deepest truths about ourselves. Elias, who spent his evenings sketching charcoal portraits of forgotten alleyways, believed that routine blinds us to what truly matters. When we're caught in the rhythm of daily life, rushing to meetings, scrolling through endless notifications, or appeasing others, we rarely pause to listen to our inner voice. But distance, he said, is like opening a window in a stuffy room. It lets in fresh air, revealing what we've ignored for too long. Take Clara, a 32-year-old graphic designer with a laugh that could light up a room but a heart heavy with unspoken dreams. Clara had spent years in a friend group that felt like family, their weekly brunches filled with shared stories and clinking coffee mugs. Yet beneath the warmth, she felt a growing unease. She'd dim her quirky ideas to fit their mold, agreeing to plans that drained her creative energy. One rainy afternoon, sitting in her cramped apartment, with fairy lights casting soft shadows, Clara journaled a question. Why do I feel like I'm betraying myself? That question became her compass. She decided to step back, declining invitations and carving out evenings for her art instead. At first, the silence was deafening. Her phone stopped buzzing, and doubt crept in like a chilly draft. But in that quiet, Clara began to hear herself again. She rediscovered her love for bold, abstract designs, and with each brushstroke, she felt a piece of her soul click back into place. This act of distancing isn't just about physical space, it's about creating room for an internal dialogue. Elias taught that when we step away, repressed emotions, grief, longing, even joy, rise to the surface like bubbles in a still pond. You might uncover a childhood dream you buried to please others, or realize a relationship you cherished is quietly draining you. For Clara, the distance revealed a truth. She'd been clinging to her friends out of fear of being alone, not because they truly uplifted her. This clarity, though uncomfortable, was a gift. It showed her what she needed to live in alignment with her vibrant, creative spirit. But what happens to those left behind? When you choose yourself, the reactions of others can feel like a storm. Some may lash out, others withdraw, and a few might surprise you with understanding. Elias, who once distanced himself from a mentor whose rigid expectations stifled his curiosity, learned that these reactions often reflect the other person's inner struggles. When Clara stepped back, one friend, Mia, sent a flurry of accusatory texts calling her selfish. Another, Leo, simply stopped reaching out. But Elias would say their responses weren't about Clara. They were mirrors of Mia's fear of change and Leo's discomfort with vulnerability. By choosing distance, Clara wasn't just freeing herself, she was inviting others to face their own shadows, whether they were ready or not. Have you ever noticed how someone's reaction to your choices says more about them than you? Imagine a quiet lakeside at dawn. The water so still, it reflects every tree, every cloud, with startling clarity. That's what distance does. It turns relationships into mirrors, revealing truths we might otherwise miss. Dr. Elias Moreau, with his knack for unraveling the human psyche, taught that projection is the mind's way of dodging its own shadows. When you step away, the emotions others fling your way, anger, sadness, or cold indifference, are often their own fears dressed up as criticism. Consider Theo, a 41-year-old bookstore owner whose salt and pepper beard and wire-rimmed glasses gave him a scholarly air. Theo had always been the glue in his family, hosting Sunday dinners where laughter echoed over steaming plates of pasta. But as he entered his 40s, he felt a growing restlessness. Those dinners, once a joy, now felt like a performance. He was playing the role of the perfect son, brother, and uncle, suppressing his dream of traveling the world to keep everyone happy. One winter evening, as snow dusted the bookstore's windows, Theo made a decision. He announced he'd be taking a 6-month sabbatical to explore South America. The reaction was immediate. His sister, Lila, accused him of abandoning the family, her voice sharp with hurt. His mother, Grace, withdrew into silence, her disappointment heavier than words. Theo felt a pang of guilt, but Elias's teachings echoed in his mind. Their reactions are not your burden. Lila's anger, Elias might say, stemmed from her own fear of losing control. She relied on Theo's presence to feel secure. Grace's silence reflected her struggle to face her own unfulfilled dreams of adventure. Theo's choice to step away wasn't just about him. It forced his family to confront truths they'd buried. But the mirror works both ways. Distance also reveals what you project onto others. Theo realized he'd been seeing his family as fragile, needing his constant care. By stepping back, he saw they were stronger than he'd thought, and so was he. This process isn't easy. When you distance yourself, you face a void, a quiet that can feel like standing alone in a vast, empty field. For Theo, the first weeks of his trip were lonely. Hostel rooms smelled of damp wood, and unfamiliar languages swirled around him. But in that discomfort, he found clarity. He began writing letters to himself, scribbling thoughts about his fears of letting people down. Elias taught that this void is sacred, a canvas where you can rediscover who you are beyond others' expectations. For Theo, it was a chance to embrace his wanderlust, to savor the tang of street food in Lima and the rhythm of salsa in Bogotá. Each step away from the familiar healed a part of him that had felt trapped. This invites you to pause and reflect. Who in your life reacts strongly when you set boundaries? What might their response reveal about their inner world? And yours? Distance doesn't just clarify relationships. It's a lens that sharpens your understanding of yourself. Relationships are like rivers, ever-changing, sometimes turbulent, but always flowing toward truth. When you choose to step back, you alter the current, and the ripples touch everyone involved. Dr. Elias Moreau, who often sipped chamomile tea while pondering life's mysteries, believed that distancing yourself isn't selfish. It's an act of self-love that reshapes connections into something deeper or lets them drift away if they no longer serve you. Meet Amara, a 29-year-old yoga instructor with a penchant for collecting vintage postcards. Amara had always been the peacemaker in her tight-knit group of college friends, smoothing over arguments and planning their annual beach trips. But as she deepened her yoga practice, she felt a disconnect. Her friends' endless debates about careers and status left her feeling hollow, like she was wearing a mask to fit in. One spring morning, as she unrolled her mat in a sunlit studio, Amara decided to take a break from the group. She stopped responding to their group chat and spent her weekends hiking instead, the crunch of gravel under her boots grounding her in a way their brunches never did. The fallout was swift. Her friend Noah sent a snarky message accusing her of going all zen and ditching us. Another, Sophie, acted unbothered but stopped inviting her to events. Amara felt a twinge of loss, but Elias's words rang true. Their reactions reflect their own discomfort, not your worth. Noah's sarcasm hid his fear of losing their shared history. Sophie's indifference masked her struggle to accept Amara's growth. But something beautiful happened too. One friend, Ezra, reached out with curiosity, asking about her yoga journey. Their coffee dates became a safe space, filled with honest talks about dreams and fears. Amara's distance didn't just reveal who couldn't adapt. It strengthened her bond with Ezra, making it more authentic than ever. Elias taught that the most meaningful relationships inspire growth, not complacency. Amara's choice to step back was like pruning a tree. Some branches fell away, but the ones that remained grew stronger. She began to notice how her energy shifted. The exhaustion of pleasing others lifted, replaced by a quiet joy in her own company. She started a blog about mindfulness, her words weaving stories of her hikes and meditations. To her surprise, strangers left comments, sharing how her vulnerability inspired them. Distance didn't just transform her old friendships, it opened doors to new connections that resonated with her soul. This process can be painful. Letting go of people you once loved feels like leaving a piece of yourself behind. But Elias reminded us that separation is often the price of growth. Amara learned this when she ran into Noah at a farmer's market, his eyes avoiding hers as he mumbled a greeting. She felt a pang, but also a strange peace. She'd made room for relationships that truly nourished her. What relationships in your life might bloom or fade if you gave yourself permission to step back? Have you ever felt the universe winking at you, aligning moments in ways that feel too perfect to be chance? That's synchronicity, the dance of meaningful coincidences that Dr. Elias Moreau described as the universe's way of saying, you're on the right path. When you distance yourself from what no longer serves you, you create space for these magical alignments, inviting people and opportunities that resonate with your true self. Let's meet Julian, a 37-year-old carpenter with calloused hands and a quiet passion for poetry. Julian had spent years in a corporate job, his days filled with fluorescent lights and endless spreadsheets. His co-workers were kind, but their water-cooler chats about sports and stocks left him feeling like an outsider. One autumn evening, as leaves crunched under his boots, Julian decided to quit. He enrolled in a woodworking apprenticeship, trading his suit for a worn apron. His colleagues were baffled. Some called him reckless, others drifted away. But Julian felt a spark he hadn't known in years. The void was daunting at first. His apartment, once filled with after-work beers and laughter, felt too quiet. But in that stillness, Julian began writing poetry again, his pen scratching out verses about weathered wood and open skies. One day, at a local craft fair, he met Lena, a 35-year-old potter with a warm smile and clay-streaked overalls. They bonded over their love for creating with their hands, and Lena invited him to a poetry reading. There, Julian read his work aloud, his voice trembling but alive. The applause felt like a hug from the universe. Within months, he was teaching woodworking classes, his students drawn to his quiet wisdom. Lena became a collaborator, their joint projects blending wood and clay into art that sold out at galleries. Elias taught that synchronicity isn't luck. It's the universe responding to your authenticity. Julian's choice to step away from a life that didn't fit wasn't just about leaving a job. It was about reclaiming his essence. The people who entered his life, Lena, his students, the poets, weren't random. They arrived because Julian had made space for them by letting go of what held him back. He began to notice patterns. A book on craftsmanship falling off a shelf just when he needed inspiration, or a stranger at a cafe mentioning a woodworking grant he'd later win. These weren't coincidences. They were signs he was aligned with his purpose. This process also transformed Julian's relationship with himself. He realized he'd been hiding his poetry for years, fearing judgment. Distance gave him the courage to share it, and each poem he read aloud felt like shedding a layer of doubt. Elias would say, "This is individuation, becoming who you truly are by embracing all parts of yourself, even the ones you once hid." What synchronicities might unfold if you let go of what's dimming your light? Stepping away isn't just about external change. It's a pilgrimage to your own heart. Dr. Elias Moreau, who often walked barefoot in his garden to feel the earth's pulse, believed that distance is a bridge to self-discovery. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you confront the void, that quiet space where your deepest truths wait to be heard. It's not always comfortable, but it's where transformation blooms. Picture Sophia, a 46-year-old librarian with a love for jazz and a habit of tucking wildflowers into her braids. Sophia had always been the anchor for her family, mediating her siblings' disputes and caring for her aging parents. But as her 40s unfolded, she felt a quiet ache. She'd put her dream of opening a community bookstore on hold, pouring her energy into others. One summer evening, as saxophone notes drifted from her record player, Sophia decided to set boundaries. She told her family she needed time for herself, signing up for a writing workshop instead of hosting their usual barbecues. The backlash was immediate. Her brother, Marcus, called her distant, his voice laced with hurt. Her parents guilt-tripped her, hinting she was shirking duty. Sophia wavered, her heart heavy with the weight of their words. But in the workshop, surrounded by the scent of ink and old paper, she began to write stories, tales of women who chased dreams against all odds. Each word felt like a step toward herself. She realized she'd been carrying her family's expectations like a backpack full of stones, afraid to set it down. Distance showed her she could love them without losing herself. Elias taught that the void is fertile ground. For Sophia, it was a space to confront her fear of disappointing others. She started small, saying no to extra shifts at the library, spending Sundays sketching bookstore plans. One day, she found an old jazz record at a flea market, its liner notes quoting a musician who left fame to follow his heart. It felt like a nod from the universe. Months later, Sophia leased a tiny shop for her bookstore, its shelves soon filled with novels and wildflowers. Her family slowly adapted. Marcus even helped paint the walls, his gruff apologies a sign of growth. Sophia's distance didn't just heal her, it inspired those around her to reflect on their own choices. This journey requires courage. Doubt will whisper that you're selfish, that you're breaking bonds. But Elias reminds us that growth is never easy. It's in the discomfort that we find our truth. Sophia learned to trust her intuition, that quiet voice guiding her toward a life that felt like home. What might you discover if you gave yourself permission to step back and listen to your own heart? What if your courage to live authentically could light a path for others? Imagine a pebble dropped into a still pond, its ripples spreading far beyond the point of impact. That's the power of choosing yourself, Dr. Elias Moreau would say, his voice soft but certain as he sat by a crackling fireplace, sketching ideas in a leather-bound notebook. When you distance yourself from what dims your spirit, you don't just transform your own life, you become a beacon, inspiring others to seek their own truth. Enter Luca, a 27-year-old barista with a knack for origami and a smile that hid years of self-doubt. Luca had always been the easygoing one in his social circle, nodding along to plans he didn't care for, laughing at jokes that stung. His friends loved his reliability, but Luca felt like a shadow of himself. Folding his dreams into tiny paper cranes, he tucked away in drawers. One crisp autumn morning, as the coffee shop filled with the aroma of roasted beans, Luca decided to change. He stopped joining his friends' late-night bar crawls, choosing instead to attend a local art class. His fingers, once nimble with espresso tampers, now danced with paintbrushes, creating vibrant canvases that spoke of freedom. His friends' reactions were mixed. His best friend Riley teased him, calling his art phase cute but fleeting. Others, like Clara, grew distant, their texts tapering off. Luca felt the sting of their dismissal, but Elias's wisdom anchored him. Your growth may unsettle others, but it's not your job to ease their discomfort. In the art class, Luca met Nora, a 30-year-old musician with a husky laugh and a passion for storytelling through song. Nora saw Luca's paintings and urged him to share them at a community gallery. Terrified, but inspired, Luca agreed. The night of the exhibit, his canvases glowed under soft lights, each one a piece of his soul. Strangers approached him, sharing how his work stirred memories of their own buried dreams. One woman, a retired teacher, bought a painting and told Luca it reminded her to start writing again. Luca's choice to step away didn't just free him, it sent ripples through his world. Riley, initially skeptical, attended the exhibit and was floored by Luca's talent. Over beers later, he admitted he'd been stuck in a job he hated, afraid to chase his own path. Luca's courage nudged Riley to enroll in a coding boot camp, a step toward his dream of game design. Even Clara, who'd drifted away, sent a hesitant message months later saying she'd started therapy to face her own insecurities. Luca's distance hadn't ended their friendships, it had planted seeds of change. Elias believed that authenticity is contagious. When you live in alignment with your truth, you give others permission to do the same. Luca began to see this everywhere. A co-worker who quit to travel after hearing his story. A stranger at the gallery who launched a poetry chapbook. His life felt lighter, not because he had more, but because he'd let go of what weighed him down. The origami cranes he once hid now decorated his apartment, a reminder that every fold, every step away, had led him closer to himself. This ripple effect extends beyond people. It reshapes your world. Luca noticed synchronicities, a gallery owner offering him a solo show just as he ran out of canvas funds, or a song on the radio echoing the theme of his latest painting. These moments, Elias would say, are the universe's applause for your courage. What ripples might you create by choosing authenticity? Who might you inspire simply by being true to yourself?